Hey family, welcome back to the Quarry. Before we talk about this week's reading, let's establish posture. We don't open scripture casually. We don't read to confirm ourselves. We read to be shaped. So before you open Job chapters 1 through 24 this week, slow down. Ask the Lord to correct you if needed. Ask Him to guard you from assumptions before the text even speaks. So we're reading from the King James Version as usual, and as always, we stay inside the assigned reading and let the scripture interpret scripture. And remember the 4 questions that we should always ask. Who is speaking? Who is being spoken to? What is happening historically, and why is this being said here? Those questions protect your interpretation. Now let's prepare. So when you open Job chapter 1, the first thing the text does is establish Job's character. Before the suffering begins, before the debates start, scripture tells you who Job is. And one small verse reveals the posture of his life. Job rises early to offer sacrifices for his children. And the text says, "Thus did Job continually." And that word matters. This wasn't a response to crisis. This was a pattern. So before the trial begins, scripture establishes Job's integrity. That matters for everything that follows. Then the losses come. One messenger after another arrives. The oxen are taken, the sheep are destroyed, the servants are lost, and finally his children are gone. Everything collapses in a single sequence. And Job responds with words that echo through scripture. "The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And then the text says something extremely important. "In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly." Before anyone interprets his suffering, scripture tells you Job did not sin. That detail becomes very important when his friends begin to speak. As you move into the early conversations, notice what the friends begin to assume. Their reasoning is simple. If suffering has come, then sin must be the cause. One of the questions raised early is this: shall mortal man be more just than God? The statement itself is true, but the assumption behind it is that Job must somehow be claiming righteousness against God. Watch that carefully as you read. Sometimes people say something true about God while using it to draw the wrong conclusion about a person. As the chapters progress, you'll hear Job begin expressing the weight of his suffering. He asks, "What is man that thou shouldst magnify him?" And later he says something that describes human life in a fallen world. Man that is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble. Job is not denying God. He's wrestling with suffering that he can't explain. Pay attention to the difference between lament and rebellion as you read. The friends, however, become more confident in their conclusions. They begin to suggest that the hope of the hypocrite perishes. They question whether anyone can truly understand God. And they begin describing humanity as corrupt and drinking iniquity like water. Notice that shift. They move from observation to accusation. They are now interpreting Job's suffering as proof of hidden guilt. Now, eventually, Job answers them directly. He says, "They are forgers of lies and physicians of no value." And then he says something remarkable. "Oh, that you would altogether hold your peace, and it should be your wisdom." Sometimes the wisest counsel is silence, especially when suffering is involved. And then Job makes one of the most powerful declarations in scripture. "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." Job does not understand what God is allowing, but his trust does not disappear. That is integrity under trial. And then he says something else worth noticing. He says, "I have ordered my cause. I know that I shall be justified." Job is not claiming perfection, but he knows that the accusations against him are not true. As you continue into Job chapter 23, listen carefully to Job's longing. He says, "Oh, that I knew where I might find him." Job is not running from God. He is searching for him. And then he says something that becomes central to the entire book. He knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. Job cannot see the purpose of the trial, but he believes God sees him. When you reach Job chapter 24, Job begins pointing out something that the friend's theology cannot explain. He observes injustice. The poor are oppressed, the needy suffer, and the wicked do not always face immediate judgment. Life is not as simple as suffering equals guilt. And Job sees that, and the tension remains unresolved in these chapters. So as you read Job 1 through 24 this week, watch carefully for the contrast unfolding in the text. Heaven knows Job's integrity. His friends question it. And Job wrestles with suffering while refusing to abandon God. Watch how quickly people interpret suffering. Watch how easily accusations form. Watch how integrity holds even when understanding does not. So as you move through this week's reading, keep your eyes open for Job's established integrity, the assumption that suffering proves guilt, the difference between lament and rebellion, the growing confidence of Job's friends' accusations, Job's continued search for God, and the tension between appearance and reality. Let the text speak. Don't rush to resolve what the book itself has not resolved yet. This is the Quarry. We begin with posture, we build on truth, we allow the word to shape us. Foundation, formation, placement. I'll see you after you read.